And we're alive, broadcasting from the footsteps of New York City. We are Music Matters with Jason Tramm, and we're delighted that you can join us for our unique podcast community, where we explore the issues and the challenges of the performing arts world as seen through the eyes of distinguished colleagues. Thank you for helping us grow. We recently hit 1,416 subscribers, and we're always looking for more. So please subscribe to us on YouTube and smash that bell icon for the most up-to-date information on our upcoming guests and topics. To see our over 150 past episodes, you can go on our website at www.jasontram.net. Again, that's www.jasontram.net. You can also see all of our exciting upcoming guests and topic as well. And our guests range from some of the leading opera singers in the world to concerto soloists to indie artists from a plethora of genres. So check us out, and the conversation is always different and the artists are always interesting. So today we have a great guest. We have Mary Loeffelbein, who is an indie singer-songwriter, a worship leader, a performing artist, a recording artist, a vocal coach, a consultant, and also trains worship leaders both in her community in Washington State and even around the world. So we're delighted that you can join us today. Welcome, Mary.
Thank you very much. I'm glad to be here.
So glad that you can be here. We can be here with you as well. Last time we were supposed to meet, it was a torrential downpour, and today it's 100 degrees.
That's right. It's very warm out there, and I'm staying inside.
Well, I hope the air conditioner is functioning, and I'm so glad that you're here.
Thank you so much.
So why don't we start at the beginning? Tell us, did you always know you wanted to be in the arts and in music?
I don't think it was ever a conscious decision. It has just been part of my makeup, I guess. I grew up in a very musical family, and I just remember, as far back as I can remember, singing. And in fact, my mother tells me that I was singing melodies before I could form words. So it's just always been part of who I am. And at 5 years old, I asked for a piano, and my parents were awesome about providing instruments and lessons and things like that. They were very.
Now, were they musicians themselves?
Well, mostly my mom was a singer. My dad, his mother was a piano teacher and church musician, and he loved to sing and play harmonica, but there just was always music in the home. We had quite the record collection, everything from, the Beatles to Henry Mancini to opera to, my mom just had music going all the time. So.
That's wonderful. So there's always music there, and that just kind of, and it's so common that people are just, when you're born a musician, you're kind of born into it. You just know it's something you have to do.
Yeah, it just wasn't ever a question. It was, what instrument do I want to play?
And you started piano lessons young. What were some of the things?
Some of the things I studied? Well, I just took piano lessons from a small town piano teacher who would be.
Our guest there temporarily. We're going to get her back on there.
Oh.
Our technician Quentin is working it out. Here we go. We're on the air with Mary Loeffelbein. There she is. Hi, Mary.
Hi. Not sure what happened there, but.
We'll just keep on going. So tell us about your early music lessons.
Well, there was this sweet piano teacher. My dad was the mailman, and he knew she was a piano teacher because she was on his mail route. And just, I would just walk after school to her place, and it was a very small town. I just enjoyed it. But, the thing is, I think she would probably be more surprised than anybody that I became a piano teacher, because I was so horrible as a student. I mean, I was nice, but I was horrible about practicing my lessons, doing my theory pages. What I was doing at home was making up songs, and if I heard a song that I liked on the radio, I would figure it out on the piano, and I was not practicing. And I'd come back to my lesson, and she'd say, well, open your books and let's play this. And I hadn't even cracked the book open in a week. But if she had only known, I didn't show her, but I was writing songs and, all kinds of things like that.
Working on your improvisation too. And I think I read in your bio that you teach improvisation these days.
I do, because there are several piano teachers that, will teach regular method piano lessons. And I do some of that if it comes up. But there aren't very many that are comfortable just, having a chord chart in front of them, or just going, improvising by hearing something and making up your own version of it. or I'll work with children. I will, for instance, say we're going to play on the black keys, and I would be underneath, on the lower notes and just playing something and have them play whatever they want. And of course, it's all harmonic. We're in natural, outcome of playing, really just playing the instrument. It's separate a little bit from the academic part of it all. So I've enjoyed doing that.
It's very practical too to learn improvisation, to learn hearing and harmonic blocks. It's a very different type of training too, and I think more and more methods are actually incorporating that. So that's really interesting.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah, it used to just be that you had your regular piano repertoire book and your technique and your theory book, and you stuck to all the pages in a row and stuff like that. And I've seen more and more now that's becoming just one section of the lessons. You then learn to, because I think you get the more natural flow and articulation and stuff by being free to play set within a scale. I've just seen students more creative and more the flow becomes different in how they play.
And children are so naturally creative. I think that teaching them, and some people naturally want to create and write songs, and like you did. When have you had some songwriters as your students as well?
Oh yeah, very much. I ended up kind of being known as the one to go to if you wanted to play music with a band, or if you wanted to, begin to create music. Amongst other piano teachers in the area. So I've had where I've even had a few piano teachers that I've got to do this with, just sit down and have them really, put all the books away, and we're going to play in this key, and we're going to play in this time signature, and we're going to create. So the outcome of that has been one student in particular, she was taking piano lessons with a colleague of mine and a very good friend. And she wanted to sing, and she wanted to play on a worship team. And so and at that time, my friend and I had the same combined studio. So she'd finish her classical piano lessons across the hall and then come to me, and we would just take lyric sheets, chord charts for worship music. And I would, teach her how to do that. And what the outcome of that was, she began to write music, like really quickly, within maybe 6 months. She was writing songs, and then she's now recorded, I'm not sure, 4 or 5 albums, doing really well. That's Holly Starr.
Shout out to our friends and former students. I love that.
Yeah. So it's just a really rewarding thing for me. The time passes so fast. The worst thing for me is that I have a hard time ending lessons when they're supposed to.
I think we lost Mary for a second there. We'll connect her again. Our connection seems to be a little spotty. There we go.
Are we back?
And we'll bring Mary Loeffelbein back. There we go, Mary.
Hello again.
So we were just saying, so you've had a lot of students go on to do success. So when did you, in the church, did you always play as part of a worship team? And is that part of just your growing up musically?
Yes, to both of those. I mean, when I was a small child, I would sing we had a children's choir that then became, as we were teenagers, a traveling singing group. So I did that in my childhood. And then as an adult, I began working with worship teams. And at first that was weird for me, because while I was good at improvising and doing stuff by ear, most of what I did musically was read someone else's music. I could sight read anything and play it. And all of a sudden I was with a band, and they were just giving me a piece of paper with chords written on it, lyric sheets with chords written in. And I was a bit lost at first. I was better if I could hear it and then fake it. But then I learned to read chord charts and really think in terms of of being a part of a whole, because when you learn to be a piano player, you are all the instruments in one. And then learning in my early 20s to play and let someone else take that lead, and I might just be playing the changes and stuff like that. That was a new experience for me. And I've been part of worship teams since my early 20s.
That's got to be very special to be part of the worship and to be a worship leader and to build those teams and to practice with lots of people. So you've been playing in the same church, you told me, for quite a while. Tell us about that.
Yeah, well, when we first came to this church, I was determined at first to not tell them that I was a musician, because I went to a very small school and everybody knew me as the piano player. I played for all the choirs. I played for all the pageants, for all the graduations and everything. Then we were at this very small church, and I was from about the age of 15, I played the organ for that church and directed the choir. So here we were. I'm 21, and my husband and we got married right out of high school, by the way. We already had 2 children. We started going to a new church, and I thought, I'm not even going to tell them that I'm a musician.
It doesn't take long for them to find out, in my experience.
Find out really quickly, and by the time, I was ready for it by then. I'd done a few months off, but I in that church we became, my husband and I, he plays the bass. We became part of a sort of a band that did prison ministry, and we were on the worship team. So. I've been to prison a lot.
So what are some things you've learned by ministering to prisoners and being part of that? Such an important outreach and ministry. I'm a music minister too, so it's so important that we reach people. What did that teach you?
I was actually kind of blown away through that experience. There are many people in prison who already love Jesus. And we were received with such grace. And we even, we went to Walla Walla State Penitentiary here in Washington State, to the, what's it called? Like the hardcore, I can't think what they're
Maximum
called. Yes,
security.
thank you, maximum security.
I've seen a lot of movies.
I was a little intimidated, thinking, oh my goodness, this is going to be scary. It was the opposite of scary. I was pregnant at that time with my 4th child, and we did our concert and, spoke and stuff like that. And then this gentleman at the back of the room raised his hand and he said, "Can we pray for you and your baby?"
Oh,
and
wow.
I was just so moved. And of course I was like, yes. And the prayer was beautiful and genuine and heartfelt. And I feel like I was ministered to as much or more, because I guess I had this preconceived idea of what it's like inside of a prison from all the movies and everything. And I'm sure, it's not all, sweetness and light, but the people that were allowed to come to our concerts were people who were in a good behavior situation. And some of the prisons even had their own churches within the prison walls. And
we're going to pick up right there when Mary comes back. We might have lost her for a second, but she'll be right back. We have a spotty connection, but we will make sure she's there. So telling us about her prison ministry experience, incredible time. I think we have her again. There we go. So sorry, pick up where you left off there. We just lost the end of that comment.
Oh, well, I was just saying that you have this preconceived idea of what you think prison is like. And there were even within prison walls, there were some churches, and it was just such a different experience than I ever expected. There is, however, also, some there were a few darker experiences. In fact, it was our very first concert we did was at Shelton Prison, again in Washington State. And while we were bringing in equipment, we were sort of corralled into a room real quick, like there was some sort of emergency going on. And apparently they were delivering a man to the prison who had killed a child. And I mean, which is just devastating. But when we were speaking with the chaplain after the concert was done, he said that he wanted to know if we noticed a man in the front row who was just sort of leaned back with his arms folded the whole time we were singing and speaking. And of course we had noticed him, and he said he is pretty much the one who decides who lives and dies in this place. And the man they brought in today isn't going to survive, because they have their own sort of morality, I should say. And one of the things they don't abide is harming children. And so that was sort of eye-opening to me, to think that they had their own sense of right and wrong within the walls, and they would figure out ways to take lives or to harm.
I would imagine that population needs more music more than anybody, because, with their freedom taken away and they're serving their time, there's got to be very little to find joy. And music is such a source of joy for people. That's really a beautiful thing that you did.
Yeah, we enjoyed that experience.
How long did you do that ministry?
Oh, golly, about 3 or 4 years. When that concert in the maximum security, when they prayed over me and my fourth baby, that was actually our last concert, because I was having the fourth baby. I was ready to just kind of shut things down for a little while, and so I stepped down from worship team and from the prison ministry for I think baby Hannah was maybe 9 months old when I went back to worship ministry.
I have 4 children. How many children do you have total?
I have 4.
Me too. That's a nice big number, but keeps a very active life, certainly.
Yes, I loved it.
So how do you how did you structure your time being a musician? And you've always been a songwriter. How do you find the time around raising a family and all this stuff, and then finding time to write and create your music?
Well, I mean, it was challenging. But at the same time, I grew up with it being such an organic, natural thing to play instruments and sing and create and all that. So you just learn to do stuff with the noise in the background.
I can relate, very much so.
Yeah, and my producer that recorded my 2 albums, he has, now he has 8 children, but at the time we recorded the album, he had 5 little ones, I think. And then the second album, he had 7. So.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a full house indeed.
It is, but a blessing.
Now, you told me last time when we were talking that you have, that all of your children are musical. Now, did they grow up performing with you? What was that like? Your home must have been a very musical place.
It was a very musical place. I had a rule for my children that they take a year of piano, and they could decide from there if they wanted to continue or do something different. So they all took, some basic piano lessons with me. They all, in one way or another, were involved in, choirs at school, at church, things like that. But yeah, we did some stuff together. For a while, we did the Relay for Life, the fight against cancer thing, where we would give concerts during the Relay for Life walk thing going on, and they all participated in that. They of course were in their youth group worship team, and all the school plays. And
we just lost Mary again. Well, we'll get her back. It's been very fast to get her back on the line. So thank you, Mary, for joining us back there. We're talking about Mary Loeffelbein. This is Music Matters, and we are just about to jump in again. Sorry, Mary, we lost you for a second there, but we got you back.
Okay. Sorry about that.
Once again, it's the internet, nothing we can do about it, but it's so interesting. You've got all these kids, they're all musical. It seems like a very organic blend of music and family, and your children have gone on to become musicians of their own right. That's got to be a beautiful thing for you.
It is. It really is. I also have 11 grandchildren now.
Oh.
Yeah, crazy. Um, the oldest, Molly, she has been writing music since she was about 5 years old. And I mean, like surprising me with how, the quality of music that she's was making up, creating. She wasn't writing it down, but creating. And I would record her. And when she was 7, she wrote um, a song that for our Christmas recital, and it was so beautiful that I asked her permission to take her song and turn it into a chorus of a bigger song. And that song is on my Christmas album, The Whole Year Long, with Molly singing and I'm singing, and she's helping play the piano a little bit and the jingle bells and all that stuff.
What a special way to, kind of honor your kids and be a part of something special and to put something out there that you can be proud of. And I always say that music is like an amber that captures everything in time around it. And what a beautiful thing to capture.
I love the way you said that. That's cool. Yeah, that's it exactly. We did that album because my father had passed away, and he was my biggest fan. And when I recorded the first album, he was disappointed that his favorite song that I had written was not on that album. And I said, "Well, Dad, it's a Christmas song." He said, "Well, then do a Christmas album." So we were in the process of working on that when Dad went home to Jesus. So I don't know. I'd like to think that he still got to hear it up in heaven. But yeah, that second album, my son is singing with me, my son Aaron. 4 of my 4 oldest grandchildren are singing a little bit. And then, of course, my granddaughter Molly, she and I co-wrote and co-performed a song. There's also a song in there that is in Scots Gaelic because we are Scottish. Oh. And again, in my dad's honor. So that album is special to me for that. I don't record albums for a living. It's something that I do because it's a special I don't know, a way of sharing with my kids and my grandkids and anybody else who cares to listen what's important to me and to our family.
What a blessing, and something you can do with your family. I discovered your music through Reverb Nation, so it's had much bigger, what you're doing with your family has had a really beautiful resonance across multiple platforms. You can hear your music on Spotify, Apple iTunes, so that's got to be really fascinating to watch people around the world respond to your work.
It has been really special. I recorded the first album because I don't know, this sounds so like I'm always crying. I'm not. But the first album I did because of a loss of a very precious young musician who I had worked with, and he got taken home early, and it was devastating to this community, absolutely devastating. So I wrote a song for him called It's Not Goodbye. And I began to get, we did a little video of it for a memorial, and I began to get private messages via Facebook with people asking if they could share that song. One of them was that a friend's child had committed suicide, and she wanted to give her this song. And, things like that began to happen that surprised me. And I thought, well, okay, I never intended to record, but if God can use it, then great. I'm thrilled to be able to do that. And as I personally am a very joyful, like encouraging kind of person.
That's clear in everything you say.
Oh, thank you. But I think that part of that is because when I'm experiencing something that's too much for me to quite wrap my head around, I write music, and it sort of takes me through. It's the way that, in Psalm 23, he leads me through that. Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death,
I shall fear no evil.
The way I shall fear no evil. But when I'm in the middle of
even though I walk through the valley of shadow, I shall feel no either. Thy rod and thy staff comfort me. And we'll get Mary back on here in a second. There we go. So we're in the middle of Psalm 23. And such a powerful statement of faith, that Psalm 23, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely. And I, as I was saying, for me, to walk through something that's as difficult as death, God gives me music to be able to process that, and that's one of the ways he walks me through. So some of my songs are, about death and about, you got to keep going, kind of stuff, because I don't write songs on command. I write them because if I don't write them, I'm going to be held back from being able to, keep going on with my life. I'm stunted by an overwhelming emotion, and to write the music helps me to be able to keep going. So that's
and it's that emotion that I think I talk a lot on the show about the indie movement, and how there's never been a better time to be an indie artist, because we have so many ways to engage an almost worldwide audience. What you put together for something that was local and that was for one person translates to so many people across the globe and provides comfort.
Yeah, it's kind of mind-blowing.
It really is. You never know who's listening to what we're doing now, or when you're singing. You really have a wild and unprecedented kind of communication with people across the world.
Yes. Yeah, it's pretty awesome. I love
so
that.
How long did it take to write the pieces that were on your album? Were these pieces written over a long period of time? Were they written pretty short? And tell us about that process of getting in the studio and putting them down.
Several years before I ever put it in the album, but because it was my dad's favorite, I did. And that song is Glory, from the album The Whole Year Long. But some of the others, I had mentioned the one that my granddaughter and I did together, The White Sheet of Snow. And then I don't set out, like I said, to record an album. So I just grabbed songs that I had written over the years that had to do with Christmas. And then I took an old traditional Gallic song, Talakrosta, and I did my own arrangement of that. And it was just so meaningful to me. I mean, I know that most people listening to it are going to go, oh, that's an interesting version. But to me, it was such a labor of love. And to get to work with Brandon B., who is my producer and a dear, dear friend, he is one of the most amazing musicians. He'll just he'll listen to my song and then he'll grab an instrument and then grab another instrument. He just kind of blows my mind how his brain works.
Tell us. I love the process of in the studio with the producer, how things change from the original conception to what they wind up in on the album. So how are some of the ways that they changed, some of your songs changed as you were in that process?
Oh man. Okay. Well, for one thing, the song, my granddaughter Molly's song, The White Sheet of Snow, of course, the chorus was written by a 7-year-old child. And it's, just joyful. It was a gray day and all of a sudden the snow's coming down, that kind of thing. And so I enjoyed the song, and when we would record, I would have the click track in my ear and just play the piano part and then just sing my part, and then, that kind of thing. Then Brandon came all the way to Little Ephrata, where I live, and recorded my granddaughter and I together. And I thought, well, this is just going to be so cute. When it was all put together, though, he blew my mind, because he captured such a sense of joy and childlike glee of the snow in the way and it's not the kind of music he would normally do. I mean, so it was so outside the box of what Brandon B. would typically record.
That's the blessing, and that's the sign of a really good artist, who can make something that's not theirs interesting and find an interesting angle and new way of presenting it.
Yes.
So
I was,
I love that kind of interaction between the producer and the artist and how things change as they as they come together.
yeah,
I may have
yeah.
lost you for a second. I think we're just about to link up again. There we go. So when you finished that project, and what's it like to hear some of the praise as it comes in?
Oh, it's really special. I mean, I with both of these album projects, I've spent my life helping other people do that kind of stuff and wasn't on my own radar. So I had really gone back and forth both times with, do I make this public, or is it just, just make some copies of it for my family? Um, and I'm so glad that I, just said, okay, let's just do it and put it out there. It's been just a really sweet experience to have someone else moved by the joy of a song, or moved to tears over something that moved me to tears. I just never wanted to go, be a big star. That's never been my goal. It's just, I feel like being a musician is a way for me to thank God for what He gave me and for where He's put me and what He's, doing in me. And also to, be able to stay sane, basically. I mean, if I'm frustrated, you're going to get, you're going to get angry, if I'm, it truly is how I'm able to find whatever, calm again in my life, and to express myself. And if someone else wants
And
to,
what a blessing, because it blesses those around you. You can through releasing your emotions, it affects everybody else. That's a wonderful thing. Do you have a song you'd like to play with for us today? I'd love to hear you perform.
today is another one from my dad. Like I said, my dad was, just really special to me. I'm wearing, there's three little things on this necklace. The smallest little Celtic cross is from my dad when he went to Scotland. He and my mom went to Scotland and got that for me. The little stone is, my dad was a rock hound, and he polished this stone to make it a little necklace thing. And then the other Celtic cross is from when Dad passed away. We went back to Scotland and placed his ashes in a ceremony in Loch Lomond. So I thought today I'm really going to honor my dad. I wrote a song for him called Hand Me Down. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Well, if the saying is so, at least it smacks of the truth. It says that all that you own ends up in fact owning you. We gather, store up, scatter, shore up. What's those hand-me-down clothes? Don't need your hand-me-down shoes, but my dad's hand-me-down knows there is no other I choose. Together we weather whatever the weather. Forever you're never gone for long. and I believe it is true. It says that all that you own ends up in fact owning you.
Thank you so much. That's so beautiful. And that whole idea of this hand-me-down and who handed you your... That's so beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Thank you. Thank you. I had
Your
to
father
say,
would be most proud.
I had to say the hand-me-down nose because when I was a little girl, my mom said, "Oh, you have your dad's nose." And I remember thinking, I don't want to look like a man. And now I treasure this little hand-me-down nose.
If you're from a large family, we know all about hand-me-downs, and
yeah,
everything's handed down. The genetics, of course the clothes, but it's that idea that passes generation to generation.
Right. Yeah, it's really.
And I love that's such a. You could tell that songs that mean something to someone. It's just there's a depth of emotion when you sing that's just so beautiful.
Well, thank you so much. Yeah, like I said, it's what keeps me sane.
Who are some of the singer-songwriters who've inspired you that you kind of, maybe when you first started, who are some of the singer-songwriters that you really enjoy?
Oh, this is really going to date me, but then I've already told you I have 11 grandchildren. Carole King.
Of course.
Keith Green. Do you know who that is?
I do not.
You have to look him up. Very energetic and big on the piano, and just he loved Jesus so much. And I came from this very musical family that you have to really have good chops in order to stand out to us. That sounds so awful to say, but I mean it was how I felt.
It's reality. If you're from a musical family.
Well, at 17 years old, I went to Jesus Northwest in Vancouver, Washington, thinking that Jesus music was like the choir stuff that I had been doing. And it was, maybe a little corny, because I grew up in a family that was I have a very hardcore rock couple of brothers. And, so I went there expecting to not be moved. And Keith Green comes out on stage and didn't say a word. He just started playing the piano just like crazy. And I went, whoa, okay, this is a serious musician. And then, he gave his story. He just blew me out of the water in every way, especially in my heart. I knew then that was what I was called to do. As he said, he came to a place where he realized God had given the music to him. The music was for God's glory. And I was like, okay, that's what I'm going to do. And so at 17 years old, and I have determined throughout my life that not only would I write songs about God, but that anything that I wrote having to do with my life was going to in some way point to God, because I'm living my life for God's glory. So yeah, Keith Green was really big on that. But like I said, Carole King too. I loved that she could sit down at a piano and just make you happy and tell her stories. And that's what, being a musician and a singer-songwriter is to me. I tell stories and I, tell people who God is in my life, so.
It's a witness, and you're sharing that witness with people and making them happy. And thank you so much for sharing that with us. Really special, and I'm so glad your first song that I heard was "Pearls Go Deeper," and I said, "Wow, it's an interesting voice," and she really sings with emotion, and it really grabbed me, and I really enjoyed it. And I said, I have to find out who this person is.
Oh well, thank you so much. I have my daughter made this for me after that song, "Go Deeper."
Well, I'm going to put a link to that one as well. And how can we find out more about your music, and where can people go to find out more about you?
You can go to maryloeffelbein.com. And that name is a tricky one. Do you need it spelled?
It's spelled on the show description, so they'll have no problem with that.
Yeah, and of course, Reverb Nation. I have Mary Loeffelbein, singer-songwriter on Facebook. I don't know. You can find all kinds of stuff if you Google me. I do still, I haven't taught lessons through this pandemic.
We're in this discussion with Mary Loeffelbein, who we just lost the sound for a second, but it's going to come back any second now because we've been having those issues. But it's been a wonderful conversation with a really dedicated artist and worship leader and person of great faith, and her music is really beautiful. And there's Mary.
Hello.
It's been a strangely consistent drop. I could just fill in a thing and you'd be right there again. So it's been no worries at all.
Okay.
So do you use social media to promote your music as well?
Well, a little bit, I guess. I mentioned this. It hasn't been a driving force for me to get music out there beyond what just naturally occurs when you put stuff out there. But but I do have my website, maryloeffelbein.com. I do have, a page on Facebook, Mary Loeffelbein Singer Songwriter. If you Google me, you'll see connections to, on Apple Music and Amazon and, all that kind of stuff. It's all out there. I don't spend much time on that necessarily. There's, but I do appreciate the opportunity to, have music out there for people to listen to, and hopefully they'll be able to share those emotions and get stuff out. I think it's good for us to cry sometimes. I think it's good for us to laugh. It's,
we all need that cathartic response, right? We all need to feel that the presence of God, to feel a singer who really moves us. It puts us in a different place, and it's so important. And for me too. And as a conductor, I've got to become the music and find out what's special in that music and bring that out. And that's I spend a lot of my time doing research so I can do that. But it's a special process.
Yes, for sure. Yeah.
As artists, our job is to make people feel and to bring our feelings out. And your music is so emotional. I encourage people to take a look at Mary's music. It's beautiful. It's really emotional. And make sure you check it out and listen to it on YouTube or on social media in different places, on Apple iTunes and such. And thank you so much for joining us, Mary.
Oh, it has really been a pleasure. Thank you for letting me do this.
Continued beautiful music and worship.
Yeah, it's been really special to get to share some of my stories. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Mary. Thank you for joining us on Music Matters with Jason Tramm. Please remember to subscribe to us on YouTube and smash that bell icon for the most up-to-date information on our upcoming guests and topics. We have 2 shows tomorrow, an early one at 10 a.m. We have Sonny Boy Dladla, who is a South African-born opera singer who is currently in Germany working at a couple of the major theaters, who will be joining us at the crack of dawn at 10 a.m. At Eastern Standard Time. And I think it's 4 o'clock German time. And in the afternoon, we have the accomplished and acclaimed choral composer and piano composer Lloyd Larson, who is published by Hal Leonard and a bevy of other music composers, and he writes for a lot of different choirs. So thank you so much for joining us, and remember, keep music alive.